everyone. Welcome back. The Senate has just advanced one of the most sweeping and controversial legislative proposals in recent memory, Trump's so-called Big Beautiful Bill. Despite its light-hearted name, the substance is anything but light. We're talking about a massive 940-page legislative package that impacts nearly every aspect of American life: taxes, healthcare, retirement, immigration, defense spending, and even student loans. This proposal narrowly cleared its first hurdle with a 51-49 vote, and the consequences could ripple across the entire nation. One detail that hasn't yet made major headlines: the Congressional Budget Office projects this bill could add a staggering $3.3 trillion to the national debt over the next decade. Even more alarming, it may result in nearly 12 million Americans losing their health insurance, largely due to significant Medicaid cuts. So, while the bill promises benefits like tax reductions and extra take-home pay, there's much more happening beneath the surface that we need to examine. Stick around as we break it all down, factually and clearly, covering how this bill might impact you and what to keep an eye on next. But first, let me ask, if you had to pick one, would you choose lower taxes or better access to health care? Share your thoughts in the comments. They drive this discussion. And if you find this breakdown helpful, don't forget to subscribe. My goal is to deliver the facts, free from noise. Let's begin with tax policy, which is the headline feature for many. This bill proposes to make permanent the tax cuts introduced in Trump's 2017 legislation. If you appreciated those reductions, they're here to stay. There's also a notable new component: federal income tax would no longer apply to tips or overtime pay. That means if you work in service or put in long shifts, that additional income would be completely tax-free. Importantly, this isn't a temporary benefit. It's written to be permanent, which is particularly advantageous for hourly workers and seniors returning to the workforce. However, these tax breaks come with significant trade-offs. To fund them, the bill implements $930 billion in cuts to Medicaid over 10 years. This isn't just a blow to low-income families. Medicaid supports seniors, individuals with disabilities, nursing home residents, and rural communities reliant on local hospitals. Instead of open-ended federal funding, states would receive capped block grants. While this might sound like increased flexibility, it essentially means that when funding runs out, states are left to fend for themselves. Additionally, the legislation reduces the amount states can collect in taxes from healthcare providers, a key funding source for state Medicaid programs. Combined, this creates a double strain: less federal support and fewer local funding options. Another critical provision? A new work requirement for Medicaid. Adults under age 65 would need to prove they work 80 hours per month, unless they are disabled or caring for a child under 14. This isn't a guideline. It would be codified into federal law. For individuals facing job instability or chronic illness but who aren't yet 65, this could result in loss of health care coverage. To mitigate rural fallout, the Senate increased rural hospital funding from $15 billion to $25 billion. This aims to keep small hospitals open, but critics argue it falls short of what's needed to offset broader cuts. Even within the Republican Party, there is dissent. Senator Josh Hawley, typically aligned with party leadership, labeled the cuts a mistake, noting, "You can't be a working-class party while taking health care away from working people." Now let's focus on what the bill means for seniors. There is a targeted benefit: a $6,000 bonus tax deduction for individuals 65 and older, available through 2028. However, the benefit phases out quickly. Individuals earning more than $75,000 or couples making over $150,000 will see the deduction decrease or disappear. This makes it most beneficial for fixed-income retirees, not those with significant pensions or assets. While helpful, critics argue this benefit is minor compared to the larger cuts to long-term care and Medicaid. Another overlooked change. The bill blocks a Biden-era regulation requiring increased staffing in nursing homes, a measure previously expected to cost $23 billion. Without it, some facilities may face understaffing or even closure, especially in low-income and rural areas. Turning to defense and immigration, the bill allocates $350 billion, including $27 billion for mass deportation initiatives, $45 billion for new detention centers. This represents a major realignment in spending priorities, especially compared to domestic program cuts. So how did it pass the Senate? Just barely. The bill cleared with 11th-hour negotiations, pressure from leadership, and some controversial political trades. Senator Lisa Murkowski secured tax breaks for Alaskan whalers. Senator Tom Tillis voted no and faced a Trump backlash. Soon after, he announced he wouldn't seek re-election. Democrats, frustrated by the bill's contents, used a rare procedural tactic to force all 900-plus pages to be read aloud, delaying Senate work by nearly 15 hours. That was just the start. We're now in a phase called a vote a Rama, where senators can introduce an unlimited number of amendments, some genuine, others purely political. Think of it as high-stakes legislative chess. Let's now discuss education. A key provision in the bill caps federal borrowing for graduate school. If you plan to become a doctor, lawyer, or educator, you might not be able to borrow as much through government programs. This could push more students toward private loans with higher interest rates and fewer protections. While the intention is to steer people toward cheaper programs, the unintended consequence could be fewer opportunities for low-income students seeking high-paying careers. One unusual addition: a $1,000 Trump baby account for every child born between 2025 and 2029. This is a government-funded investment account aimed at helping families build long-term wealth from birth. Critics point out the contradiction, offering early financial help while cutting health care and safety nets later in life. And then there's Section 70302, a legal provision with big implications. It states that if someone violates a court order, like a tenant protection or restraining order, the court cannot enforce it unless a financial bond was posted at the start of the case. Even more concerning, this change is retroactive. That means if your elderly parent was supposed to be protected from an abusive landlord and no bond was posted, that court order may no longer be enforceable. Some proposed measures didn't make the final bill. The Senate parliamentarians struck down special provisions for Alaska and Hawaii, certain orphan drug and Medicare carve-outs. Other controversial ideas, like defunding Planned Parenthood under Medicaid, are still under review. So what happens next? Even if the Senate passes this version, it goes back to the House of Representatives, where opposition is mounting. Lawmakers are raising alarms about the bill's effects on Medicaid and food assistance. Some argue the Senate's version deviates too far from what the House originally passed. Even Elon Musk chimed in, calling the bill utterly insane and a job killer, warning it could politically backfire on Republicans. So here we are, at a major national crossroads. This bill is more than just numbers and legislative language. It's about how we decide to balance economic growth versus social support, tax relief versus health coverage, personal freedom versus shared responsibility. Yes, seniors may benefit from a modest tax break, Yes, workers might avoid taxes on overtime and tips, but in return, millions could lose access to the health care and programs they depend on. So what do you think? Does this bill strike the right balance, or has it gone too far in one direction? Let me know in the comments. I read them all. And if you want more clear, factual updates on how policy affects you, subscribe and stay tuned. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.